From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mix Up Sports Network, coming to you live here on this Monday. It is the 20th day of March 2017. As we start to get down to the nitty gritty here in the college basketball tournament, a lot to discuss there, including spring training just about over. The Giants make another signing while the Jets are focusing again on the wrong player. And the NHL season drawing to a close. I believe the Islanders have 11 games left and the Rangers have 10. The Rangers pretty safely in the playoffs right now. The Islanders, however, find themselves a game behind and a point behind Toronto. Pardon me, with Toronto having a game in hand on the Isles. But we'll begin today with our completely and utterly busted bracket right from the word go. As Duke losing to South Carolina yesterday by a final score of 88 to 81. Now, we heard John Calipari complaining a lot, as a lot of coaches and a lot of radio personalities and a lot of television personalities do, about the seeding. And I even said it during us filling out the bracket that an 8-loss Duke team, I don't care if they're coming off of winning a national championship 2 years ago, an 8-loss Duke team is not a number 2 seed. It is a number 3, a number 4 at worst. And that number 4 would have had them playing Eastern Tennessee. And the number 5 and the number 3 would have had them playing New Mexico State. Now, both the 3 and the 4, Baylor the 3, Florida the 4, have moved on. They will both play in the Sweet 16. Baylor beating New Mexico State and USC, Florida beating Eastern Tennessee and Virginia. So again, those we got wrong. With UNC Wilmington losing to Virginia right out of the gate, we lost that one. Virginia Tech beating Wisconsin, we lost that one. Which set up the upset right now, as thus far in the tournament, the upset to trump all upsets, which is number 8 Wisconsin defeating overall number 1 and reigning defending champions Villanova. That is again, we did not have in this bracket. We did not have a number 1 reaching the Final Four. So to say we lost Villanova too early, I think, was wrong. We were robbed of what we thought we could have had, which was Villanova versus Duke. We were robbed of that. But other than that, you now have, out of an Eastern bracket, you have what is probably the least intriguing quadrant of the bracket. Because now you've got Wisconsin and Florida and Baylor, South Carolina, 4 and an 8 and a 3 and a 7, representing the Eastern quadrant of the bracket in the Sweet 16. Now, Florida under Billy Donovan had a lot of success in this NCAA tournament. What, they win it 2 years in a row with Joakim Noah being the star player. They have not been anywhere near that plateau since then. And to find them here now it doesn't mean as much as it would have, say, 7 or 8 years ago. Wisconsin, you're coming out of a 10-point win against Virginia. 10-point win against Virginia Tech. a 3-point win against Villanova. They, especially against Villanova, you could say they are battle tested. Now, Florida played Virginia, number 5, but wins by 26 points. So you're not really tested in that game. I honestly think UNC Wilmington would have given them a better game, which is the game that we had in the bracket. Baylor, honestly, who's going to watch Baylor? Beat New Mexico State by 28, beat USC by 5, or 4 rather. That's that nice close game. And then you have South Carolina, who the only reason why people may watch this game is because let's see how far they can go after beating Duke. That's the only reason why you would watch this game. Now, coming out of the Midwest, you have the 1, 4, 3, and the 7. Louisville, you did not expect to go. We had them out after we had them out in the round of 32. Michigan goes on after a 4-point win. They'll play Oregon, who only had a 3-point win against Rhode Island. That, and you would expect a team like Oregon to have a bigger win against Iona in a 3-14. It was not. I mean, you put up 93 points, but you gave up 77. So Oregon really hasn't shown their full potential, and Michigan, coming off of a 4-point win against Louisville and a 1-point win against Oklahoma State, that right there is enough to give you a little bit of this could be a good game. Could be a very, very good game. And this will take place on Thursday. Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, Thursday. That game will take place on Thursday. You have an Oregon team that hasn't hit its full potential, and you have a Michigan team that has won both of its games by a combined 5 points. So they are tested. Then you have Purdue, who beat Vermont by 10, and then Iowa State by 4. Playing Kansas, who is currently walking through this tournament, beating UC Davis by 38 and then beating Michigan State by 20. So you got Kansas, Purdue, Oregon, Michigan out of the Midwest. Now tonight, I'm sorry, never mind, the Sweet 16 is already set. Out of the West, you have Gonzaga, West Virginia versus Xavier and Arizona. Again, like I said, picking Xavier going through. Xavier is one of those teams that it doesn't seem to matter where they're ranked. When it comes tournament time, they always seem to be buzzing around. They always seem to be hanging around. And this is no case here, but they're not. This is the same case here, but they're not buzzing around. They're not hanging around. They've beaten Maryland by 11, and then they just beat Florida State 91-66. So Xavier is on it. And then you have Arizona, who beat North Dakota by 18, and then only beat St. Mary's by 9, 69-60. So Xavier, they've scored pretty much the same amount of points, but their victory differential is slightly in the favor of Xavier. That game on Thursday is going to be a very, very good game. So you have the Midwest and the West playing Thursday, the East and the South playing on Friday. Speaking of the South, you have UNC versus Butler, UCLA versus Kentucky. For the most part, I mean, we've got one out of this bracket. We've got 1, 2, 3, four, five. Okay, that it's the East that really messed us up here. But the bottom half of the bracket, we only missed one team. We had Notre Dame going in over West Virginia. That obviously did not happen. UNC Butler. UNC Butler is a very intriguing game, but I honestly think UCLA versus Kentucky could possibly be the best game of the Sweet 16. You have Kentucky, who has been here before, powerhouse in college basketball, with a fantastic coach. Then you have UCLA with essentially one NBA player, and that one NBA player could be going in one of the top two picks. A notorious college basketball school having a fantastic year again with its one player. Now Ball took over against Cincinnati. The question will be, can he do it again? 17-point win against Kent State, then a 12-point win against Cincinnati. Can Ball keep this up? And like I said, I think he's going to keep it up all the way to the final. North Carolina haven't really impressed me. Arizona, they don't look impressive. Xavier looked really good against Florida State. Gonzaga, I mean, you look at their score lines, they haven't done anything really impressive, and neither has West Virginia. Butler's kind of just roaming around. I mean, it's you don't really have that one impressive team coming out of this other than Kansas. And the unfortunate part of that for UCLA is that Kansas is on their side of the bracket. The only reason why Wisconsin is interesting, the only reason why South Carolina is interesting is because of who they beat to get to where they are. When you knock off the overall number one, you're immediately put on the watch list for every television outlet you can get right there. That automatically makes you a story when you knock out the overall number one. And then when you beat Duke, you're automatically the number one story. So, I mean, that's the only reason why. Other than Kansas, there are really just two impressive teams in this tournament right now. And you'd have to say that is Kansas and Xavier. I have not been wowed by any other team. UCLA, I have been wowed by one player, and that is Ball. Being wowed by a player and being wowed by a team are two different things. Now, the women's bracket, I'm honestly having trouble finding it because I'm looking at it under the tournament challenge or the women's tournament challenge. There's really no place on ESPN, at least, that I can find, um, or that is readily available to where I can find women's tournament, at least the bracket. I believe. Oh, here we go. I got it now. Um, UConn, Syracuse. This is out of. So you got the four quadrants for those of you who aren't knowledgeable with women's college is Bridgeport, Lexington, Oklahoma City, and Stockton, based off of where they're going to be playing the Elite Eight games. Um, Syracuse and UConn, they'll match up 1 and 8. Texas A&M and UCLA will match up. They're 1 and 4. They're 5 and 4. Maryland has beaten number 3. Maryland has beaten West Virginia. They will face the winner of Oregon and Duke, 10 and 2. In the Lexington bracket, Notre Dame has beaten Purdue 88-82, and Ohio State has beaten Kentucky. That was a 5 and 4. So it'll be Notre Dame a 1 versus Ohio State a 5 in the Elite Eight. Texas has beaten North Carolina State 84-80, so they are advancing to the Elite Eight. They await the winner of Kansas State Stanford. Stanford to 2, Kansas State to 7. Out of the Oklahoma City quadrant of the bracket, it'll be Baylor, number 1 Baylor versus number 9 Cal. Number 5 Tennessee versus number 4 Louisville. Remember, these are the Sweet 16 matchups. Number 6 Oklahoma versus number 3 Washington. Number 7 DePaul lost to number 2 Mississippi State, 92-71. Mississippi State is going on to the Elite Eight. Yes, they're going on to the Elite Eight. This is. I'm sorry, the Sweet 16, my bad. The way they have it all lined up is a little off. So those teams are going on to the the Sweet 16. Out of the Stockton bracket, South Carolina has beaten Arizona State 71-68. So South Carolina, number 1 seed, will go on to the Sweet 16. They will play the winner of number 12 Quinnipiac versus number 4 Miami. Number 6 Missouri has lost to number 3 Florida State 77-55. And number 2 Oregon State has beaten Creighton 64-52. So it'll be number 3 Florida State versus number 2 Oregon State in half of the Stockton bracket Sweet 16. So that is you all caught up with the women's tournament bracket. We'll switch gears. We'll go to baseball when we return. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. All right, we're back. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Getting to spring training today. You had both teams in action. The Yankees beating the Nationals 9-3. The Mets falling to the Tigers 5-1. And if you're a Met fan, this continues to bother you, even though you know it doesn't. And let's be honest here, it doesn't matter. We know it doesn't matter. But the fact that Matt Harvey continues to be getting smacked around, and I mean he is getting smacked around. Four and a third innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 4 strikeouts, and he gave up a home run today to McCann in the second. It's got to, and listen, like I said, I understand these games don't count. I understand Harvey's not pitching the same way he would during the regular season. But when you're coming off of reports hearing that Harvey looks better than ever, he looks just the way he did in his rookie year when he started the All-Star game at Citi Field. He is looking fantastic. He's the old Matt Harvey again. When you're hearing that and then you're seeing 0 for 4, 7 hits, 0 and 4 record in spring training, 7 hits, 3 runs over 4 and a third, you start to say, all right, I know these games don't matter. I know he's probably not doing what he's going to be doing during the regular season. But if this is the Matt Harvey that we are going to see during the regular season with his contract coming up this year and he's eligible to go to arbitration after this year, we're in some serious danger, fellas. Because you have to think, if he goes to arbitration, he's going to ask for a ridiculous amount of money. Because he and we know what kind of pitcher he can be. That, and if he's continuing to do what he did last year, he has no value on the trade market, so you can't get anything for him in the trade market. Listen, if you're a Met fan like I am, you're not going to freak out about this because, again, it's spring training. These games don't matter. He's not pitching the way he would during the regular season. But, you're sitting there watching this going, you better not pitch this way during the regular season. Otherwise, we're going to be in a load of trouble. And not a load of trouble meaning that you are the be-all, end-all of this pitching staff. No, far from it. We are in trouble with the fact that we might not be able to get rid of you if it comes down to that. So that is the major problem that the Mets face with Matt Harvey if he continues to pitch this way. Which, again, from what every single report is saying, it does not seem likely that that is the case. What does seem likely, though, is that he is going to turn around and he could become the Matt Harvey of old, which is exactly what you're looking for. I was fortunate enough to be at one of his good games last year at Petco Park when he almost hit the home run to straightaway center field. So, you have faith. Speaking of home runs at Petco Park, first of all, the home run that Giancarlo Stanton hit, I almost went to that game on Saturday night. If I didn't have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, I would have been at that game. The power, the raw power that Giancarlo Stanton possesses is sickening. What makes it worse is that he is in the National League. And what makes it even worse than that is he's in the NL East. If you're a Yankee fan, you can go ooh and ah at it. If you're a Met fan, you're going, oh, Jesus. Please don't do that against us. I know it's going. I know you're going to, but good Lord, did you see that ball get up and out? He torched it. That wasn't even close. And then you have the teammate who thought he hit a home run getting robbed by the teammate who took it away from him. Machado hits a ball to to shallow right center. It was pretty much straightaway center field. Adam Jones with an incredible catch. When you see the United States versus the Dominican Republic, that that's going to be it's going to be an instant classic. You have the two countries who produce the most and the best players. Not taking anything away from Puerto Rico, not taking anything away from Japan, but you have the two countries that produce the most and produce the best players that play in the majors. Playing to get it's like watching an all-star game, only this time they're actually competitive and they care. Incredible game the other night. And now I believe the US is going to the final against Japan in LA. That one I won't be going to. But you move now to the Yankees and you continue with the World Baseball Classic as Didi Gregorius has left the World Baseball Classic ahead of the Netherlands semifinal match tonight against Puerto Rico due to a hematoma of the subcapsular muscle in his right shoulder. Those are a lot of words. Essentially, to put that in, to dumb that down as much as I can, he's got a shoulder injury. Uh, so now the Yankees are looking at several options, which they have. They've got about 5 or 6 options that they can throw out at shortstop. One of them is not Gleyber Torres. I understand Torres is the number one prospect in baseball right now. I understand that he was the Fall League MVP, batting 444 in his first pro camp now. I understand all that. The kid's 20 years old. You're not going to rush a 20-year-old into the major leagues. Again, these pitchers are not pitching the way that they would during the regular season. They are pitching a lot different. To rush Gleyber Torres and for this to put him on the fast track to the majors would be the worst thing that the Yankees can do. Let this kid develop. Who knows? I believe he's going to start the year either in high single A or double A this year. Or, no, he's either going to start in double or triple A this year, rather. I would assume he's going to start in triple A. Maybe he spends the entire year in triple A. He's a September call up. Give him a taste. He'll be on the team next year. This is not going to change any of that. At least it shouldn't change any of that. Unless he changes it during the season and he comes up in June or July. That's the only thing that I could possibly see That's the only way I could see Gleyber Torres coming up in the majors this year. Other than that, I think he's coming. I think he's going to stay down in the minors. This does not change that because you have to think he's got Ronald Torres, Ruben Tejada, Pete Kozma. Two of those guys, Tejada and Kozma, both have major league experience. Tyler Wade, who's going to be a starting middle infielder in Scranton if he doesn't make the team, even though he's having a good spring. Starlin Castro could move back to his regular position at short, which that opens the door for Rob Refsnyder to play at second every day. So the Yankees have options to make sure to fill that hole that Gregorius is leaving, that it does not have to do with Gleyber Torres. The best option for the Yankees, honestly, would be to move Castro to short, Refsnyder to second, and then have Pete Kozma or Ruben Tejada or whoever's been hitting better this spring in the backup role because both Cosma and Tejada can both play second and they can both play short. Which begs the question, why wouldn't you just have them both up? To put Torres in that spot now, he is going to be a great baseball player. We know this. There are not many number one prospects that aren't legit. He's going to be a fantastic player. Do not rush him into this spot. It makes no common sense. Back after this. All right, we're back listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Um, you got some interesting stuff going on as far as the NFL and the NHL both go. The NFL, the Giants have just signed Geno Smith to a 1 year, $2 million contract pending a physical. This is a move that honestly doesn't make sense. And when you see uh, Jordan Rannon, a writer on ESPN.com, say, quote, Geno Smith adds competition at quarterback for Giants. I don't see where the competition is. Who in their right mind would put Geno Smith in over Eli Manning? If you're talking about competition between Smith and Nazib, you got it now. That you definitely have that now. But between Smith and Manning, I that one I don't get. Smith has been a bad throwing quarterback. He's proven on multiple occasions that he can't read the defense. He's a mobile quarterback, and that's fine. But when you have a guy like Eli Manning, who really at times can just be stupid and give you that look on his face, comes down to it, Geno Smith has never been in a playoff game, has gotten benched on the Jets. Benched on the Jets is like getting benched on the Browns. That and Eli Manning is a two-time Super Bowl winner, not to mention a two-time Super Bowl MVP. So if you really think that they brought in Geno Smith to be competition for Eli Manning, if I were Manning, I would fall over laughing. You're bringing in this guy? This guy is going to be my competition. You guys are freaking hilarious. Seriously, who's my competition? Who are you guys bringing in? Seriously, this the joke's gone on a while now. I don't get it. That Manning has played every single game of his career. He has never been hurt. He has never missed a series in his career. Never once in a what now 12-year career, 12 13-year career. He has never missed an offensive drive in his time as a New York Giants starter. When do you really think that that's going to start now? It makes absolutely no sense. The Giants have also re-signed Mark Hertzlich, the linebacker, the veteran linebacker. That, and they have also signed cornerback and special teams standout Valentino Blake, who has gone through Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. So so you have that, and also it seems as though the Giants were also in on Cody Sensabaugh, who has apparently agreed to terms with the Steelers. So it came down to the Steelers and Giants for Sensabaugh, and the cornerback chose Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, you have the New York Jets, who now have moved their interest from Tony Romo and have moved their interest from Jay Cutler. Now they're looking at what I would assume they think is more reasonable expectations and are now going after Josh McCown. Remember how I said last week or 2 weeks ago that the Jets should be a lot better next season because you have a general manager and you have a head coach that are essentially fighting for their jobs? I think if I'm Woody Johnson and I see that, okay, cool, we're in on Tony Romo, I'm down for that. Just give him enough money. We're in on Jay Cutler, you know what? Not as good as Romo, but same thing. Just make sure you get him enough money. We're in on who now? Josh McCown. All right, they're both fired. I mean, I honestly think if they go ahead and sign Josh McCown, meanwhile Tony Romo and Jay Cutler are still available. If they go and sign Josh McCown and not Tony Romo or Jay Cutler, the only reason why McCagnon and Bowles would not be fired on the spot is because there would be no one there to immediately replace them. That is why. If the Jets get Josh freaking McCown as expecting to be their expecting him to be their starting quarterback, folks, write the Jets off again. Not like in 2015 when it was because of their schedule, 2014 when it was because of their schedule. Not in 2016 because you had to hold out for Fitzpatrick and he has coming off of a fluke year. You don't know what's going to happen. No, right off the freaking Jets, right from the very start, because once again, they've been stupid and gone after the wrong guy. There is a reason why teams are leaving the Jets and going to the Giants, and really coming from the Jets and going to freaking anywhere. There's a reason, and this is the reason. Because the Jets can't do anything right. And the Dante Hightower situation is a recent perfect example of that. Why on earth would you go through all of that trouble with Dante Hightower, parading him around the city, doing the whole tour with him, sending him freaking cupcakes on his birthday? Really? You go through all of that and then don't sign the guy. What is the point of all of it? Once again, a pure case of the Jets being absolutely useless. And you're seeing it again. Now they're going after Josh McCown. Josh McCown. I'm sorry, Chase Daniel, my bad. Chase Daniel. Still, not much better. Chase Daniel, not Josh McCown. Chase Daniel. I've been a fool these last 5 minutes. It's Chase Daniel. Still, not much better than Josh McCown, but still the wrong guy. Chase Daniel, Missouri quarterback when Mizzou was actually decent in the Big 12. A career backup, as ESPN describes him. Journeyman Chase Daniel, career backup quarterback Chase Daniel. Not Josh McCown, Chase Daniel. Just take everything I said and insert Chase Daniel. It doesn't make a difference. Now, if I was saying Josh McCown and they were in fact looking at Tom Brady, then yeah, that whole last 5 minutes is just me being an idiot. I'm going from Josh McCown to Chase Daniel. Yeah, just about the same level. Still, I mean, do you guys honestly think that Chase Daniel, or Josh McCown for that matter, is the future of the Jets? The Jets are lucky if they know what tomorrow brings, let alone who their quarterback's going to be. You head to the NHL now, which is getting more and more interesting by the day, to be perfectly honest. You have the Rangers, who, for the better part of the last 2 or 3 months, have had a lock on their playoff situation. They've had a lock on their playoff spot out of the wild card, the first wild card spot. The interesting bit comes with the Islanders, who, let's not sugarcoat it, they have underachieved massively this season after assigning Andrew Ladd and Jason Chimera and punishing Yaroslav Halak, which at this point, it comes down to a point where something has to happen. Either Halak comes back up or Garth Snow gets fired. Islander fans have been calling for Garth Snow to get fired for years, but it comes down to, if you are really, your team is in a playoff hunt and they are slipping away. That fact proven by the fact that you've lost, what, 3 of your last 4 games, only getting one and getting 3 points out of a possible 8. You're 4-4-2 in your last 10. That's not good. That's really not good. But yet you're going to keep Yaroslav Halak down in Bridgeport because of a comment that his agent made. You're in a freaking playoff hunt. You call up Halak and you say, get your butt up here. We have to make the playoffs. And if you help us make the playoffs, maybe, just maybe, we'll consider keeping you next season. And heck, if we cut you and you get us to the playoffs, you know what? You just raised your own stock. As the Islanders now are starting to fade. This run that they were on that got them from last place in the Eastern Conference all the way up to a wild card spot in 33 games, the best 33 game streak in the NHL, mind you. That was, what, 2 weeks ago? They're fading now. They have plateaued and they are falling down the other side now. You have to correct that fall. You can't go out and trade anyone. So you have to promote from within. Why guys like Alan Quine are still on this team is beyond me. At least Hosang, who's got, what, 5 games of NHL experience, is producing. The kid's already got 3 or 4 goals. Why is Alan Quine still on this team? What, for a overtime winner that he got in the playoffs last year or 2 years ago, whenever that was? Last year? Really? That's why Alan Quine. That's why Quine's on this team for an overtime wrister from the circle. It's absolutely absurd. You have the Islanders who have 11 games left now. 11 games left. 1 point behind Toronto and one less game to play. Toronto has a game in hand on the Islanders, and a matter of fact has two on the Rangers, but they're 14 points behind the Rangers. They're not making that up. The Rangers have 93 points. They're setting their sights solely on Pittsburgh, who are only 6 points ahead of them. Meanwhile, the race for the win in the Metropolitan Division is so on. You have Washington and Columbus, who have clinched playoff spots that both have 11 games to go with 100 points. Then you have Pittsburgh with 11 games to go with 99 sitting right behind them. That is on right there. One slip up and you're done. Meanwhile, the Islanders are in the same spot. You've got Toronto with a game in hand. Toronto has the game in hand on the Islanders, 1 point ahead. You have Tampa Bay 1 point behind. The Islanders are in that same spot. You slip up, you're done. And looking at the splits, the Islanders have a lot of games on the road. They have not been good on the road this year. 20, 10, and 7 at home, 13, 16, and 5 on the road. It's not good. Now we can't all be like the Rangers who are 26 and 9 on the road. 26 9 and 0 away from the Garden. But you cannot be 3 games under with 5 games in the pity point column. That is a major, major issue for the Islanders. A major issue. Wrapping up the show today. NBA over the weekend. Why you would watch NBA? Why you would watch the NBA in this town is you must be a glutton for punishment. That's really all there is to it. If you're watching NBA in this town still. After the Nets beat the Knicks again on Thursday, the Nets ended up losing to the Mavericks last night, 111 to 104. The Knicks play the Clippers in LA tonight. That game is a 10:30 start on TNT. The Nets don't play again until tomorrow. The Rangers play tomorrow. They play the Devils tomorrow, and then they play the Islanders on Wednesday. For the Islanders, that's their next game. So Rangers Devils tomorrow at the Rock. Rangers Islanders at the Garden Wednesday. The New York Red Bulls yesterday, a 3-1 loss to the Seattle Sounders. Their next game will be this upcoming Saturday against Real Salt Lake. Saturday, you had the New York City FC playing the Montreal Impact to a 1-1 draw, and their next game will be Saturday against the San Jose Earthquakes. Again, the Yankees beating the Nationals today 9-3. Mets falling to the Tigers 5-1. That is it for today. We thank you very, very much for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.